Welcome back to another episode of Oh Baby. In our last episode, we broke down our experience with the Fetal Concerns Department at Children's Hospital. And in this episode, we'll be discussing the big day, delivery day, as well as Jesse's first couple of days in recovery. So, Isabel was born on April 30th, 2020 at 8:55 a.m. Uh, we had a scheduled C-section for that early that morning. And they wanted us to be there a few hours early. I want to say we got there around 6 a.m.
Yeah, I think that's right. I remember we were there so early that there was like no one around that like entranceway, so we had to wait at the door and like
That's
buzz
right.
in, and we were getting stressed out because we were almost late.
Yeah.
It was like 6:01, 6:02, 6:03, and we're like, "Can someone please let us in?" It was
Yeah.
like we had no choice but to stand there.
They didn't want to let us in through the one door, and they made us go downstairs, go over to security, get a badge, come back up, go back over to the room. Then they were hesitant to let us in again because it was so early. And yeah, it was a mess, and it did not help with our anxiety and exhaustion levels that we were definitely feeling that morning.
Mhm.
We neither of us got any sleep the night before.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it was yeah. Jesse
Well,
was so concerned about packing.
I was. I
Uh,
was being ridiculous. I was ultimate nesting phase. I was steaming Isabel's onesies that we were going to have her wear in the NICU. And I remember you looking at me like, what are you doing? And I was like, I have to steam them, even though they were probably
yeah,
fine.
you did. You
I steamed
definitely
every
did.
single one that we brought for her. Yeah. And I was playing Backstreet Boys. I remember it was like seriously like 2 a.m., I think, when I was done. Oh, it was crazy. Oh, and I couldn't eat, right? Didn't I have to stop
Yep.
eating at a certain time?
Yep. You weren't allowed to eat past. I want to say it was like 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm. And then I remember you had to help wipe me down with the surgical wipes, the pre-op stuff.
Yeah, so they gave Jesse a set of instructions prior to the C-section, and one of those was the night before they wanted her to use these medicated wipes to clean herself, her stomach, her
Like my
private parts,
legs,
her
yeah,
legs,
back,
her
like
back,
everything. Like
her
between my
arms.
fingers and
Yeah,
everything, right?
it was
I
crazy.
remember too that I had to take out every piercing I had. So I used to have more piercings. I used to have a belly button piercing that I took out like a long time ago, I think maybe even before I got pregnant. But then I also had a lip piercing once, which is long gone. I've kept my two ear piercings, and I used to have one right here on the inside. And that was so difficult to take off for whatever reason. I looked at YouTube, I looked online. I was like thinking of anyone I knew, as a friend who might have that piercing. And it was like, I felt like it took an hour to get it apart. And then I came to you and I was like, can you please help me? And you just got it done in like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I
she
remember
was
that.
ready to kill me because she was having issues taking out her
I was
earring.
so stressed out. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do if I can't get it out?
Yeah. She was prepared to have them just cut it off.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know what to do. I was really stressed. Then it came off. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the prep. And
And then when we got there, they gave her this real flattering gown and some more wipes because apparently you have to do it twice.
yeah, yeah, I did a second time. What was funny too is this might sound silly, but I just didn't know. If you have carried a baby before, you might know, or if you have been in a relationship with someone who's carried a baby, you might know that towards the end of the pregnancy, like, contractions will come, like the Braxton Hicks and all of that. And I didn't even understand that it was a contraction until I was at the hospital getting
Oh,
prepped
yeah.
in the hospital bed before they walked me over to the operating room. Um, my belly was tensing. And I think when they put the band to check the baby's heartbeat, they were like, "Oh, you just had a contraction." I was like, "Oh, that's what that is." And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, I've been having them like, it wasn't like so close, but I've been having them for at least a day, I think, or maybe.
Yeah, you were having them for like at least a week prior.
Yeah, like even the Braxton Hicks maybe, but my belly would like contort in different shapes, and I think that was Isabel. Like, I thought it was Isabel rolling around, but apparently like everything was contracting. So anyway, I took a few pictures of how weird it looked before we went to the hospital, and all of that. And then I remember like getting walked over, I think, to get the what do you call it, like a spinal injection, the medication to prep for the
Yeah,
C-section.
I forget what it's called
I don't know
now.
what the medical term is right now, but that was to me the scariest part, to be honest.
Yeah, so they took Jesse to get prepared and they said that they gave me a gown, a mask, hairnet, all kinds of stuff to put on, some paper shoes.
Mhm.
So they gave me all that so that way I can put that on. They took Jessie so she can get her surgical prep taken care of, and then they were supposed to come back and get me.
Yeah. You know what though? This was COVID time, so I was just thankful that he was there in general because I didn't even know if he would be able to be there. And then we definitely had to do like everything up until being in the operating room in like our regular masks. And then they like garbed us up and I think did they give you a face shield or just another mask?
Uh, no, it was just a mess.
Just a mask. I think they put a mask on me, right? No, was it
No,
oxygen? I can't remember anymore.
you didn't have a mask
They
on.
took it off after a point. Okay. Yeah,
So
it's kind of
yeah,
blurry.
so they take Jessie so they can take her, get her prepped, and then as soon as she was prepped, then they would bring me into the room so I can be in the operating room. So I'm sitting there in this sweltering hot robe thing that they've given me, sweating, waiting, and waiting. One nurse even came and started like cleaning up the room, and finally, after at least 45 minutes, so a nurse comes in and she's like, "Oh my God, come with me!" And she takes me in there. And by the time I get in there, Jesse's already wide open. They're already taking the baby out, and I'm sitting here just like, "What the heck?"
Can I just tell you guys what it felt like to me? Is I remember they did the injection for me. I was terrified. I remember holding the nurse's hands and like basically tearing up because I was so afraid. And it did feel like something. Like I won't lie, I definitely felt like a sharp pain. You know, it passed quickly. But what was harder for me is my reaction to it. I was really happy that I didn't throw up. I was really nervous about that because I started to feel kind of nauseous. They gave me like an aromatherapy like cloth, and I don't even remember what the cloth was, but it helped so much. I like kept it like for weeks and weeks after Isabel was born because it just reminded me of something that comforted me so much going through like the kind of scary process of surgery. I've never really had a surgery before, so I was pretty nervous. The other thing is I remember like feeling the sedation setting in, and to me it kind of felt like I was a little drunk, like a little tipsy. So I remember like my arms and my legs started to feel heavy, and I remember they like lifted me from one bed onto the operating table, and I remember feeling like real heavy. And then I remember saying to them when they put me on the table after I got the aromatherapy thing, I remember saying, "Is my husband here?" You know, like I remember saying, "Is he coming?" And I think hopefully either that prompted them to come get you.
Yeah, definitely that's what prompted them
You
to come get me
think?
because they forgot about me.
Yeah, because that was crazy. And then I remember it just happening so fast. I couldn't see anything and I couldn't feel anything. And I remember my hands started feeling heavier and numb, and I felt like it was kind of rising. So I felt like it started feeling numb, like almost like to my chest level. So I said to, I think it was the anesthesiologist, she was so sweet. She kind of like, at first glance, I don't remember her name, seemed like kind of cold and like not, you know, good, like warm fuzzy person. And I was like, that's fine, you know, I don't need that right now, but I just need someone to at least listen to me, you know, with how I'm feeling. But she was actually really sweet. You know, she sat next to me and she was kind of like in my ear, just kind of monitoring how the anesthetic was setting in. And I remember telling her like, I feel like the numbness is starting to rise, and she's like, can you squeeze my hands? And I started to squeeze her hands, and she's like, okay, as long as you can still squeeze my hands and you can still talk, you're okay, just breathe. And she said, I'm gonna see what we can do about like trying to add something to like calm me down because I was getting a little anxious, because what they said is with me being, I'm under 5 feet, my block was getting like too high, so they wanted to stay like kind of like your belly level and lower. It was kind of going a little bit higher. So that was an interesting experience. And apparently, when you got there, like they already had
Oh yeah,
everything open.
wide open. Like I was able to see your insides.
That is very personal. It's like a new level of like you know me. It's kind of weird, but also kind of like sweet in a weird way. You know, it's like the sickness and health kind of thing.
Yeah, so I finally get in there, and like I said, she's already wide open, and so I'm checking on Jessie. As soon as I get over there, I walk up to her. I'm trying to see how she's doing. And then the nurses are like, "You take some pictures, take some pictures." I was like, "She's in a pool of blood right now. I don't really want to take a picture of that."
Oh, they asked you to take
Yeah,
pictures.
so I ended up taking a couple pictures, and then I thought about attaching them to the video version of this podcast, but uh, I'm gonna not do that. And
Have I ever seen those?
I believe so.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I just barely made it in just to see my daughter's birth, and it wasn't my fault. Like most guys can't. Like, if they're late to the birth, it's their own fault. For me, I'm waiting patiently.
That's crazy. It felt like it went really fast though. It felt like as soon as they did the injection that it all went so very fast, and then before I knew it, she was out. Um, I remember them bringing her up next to me, and she had some oxygen in, and she was so beautiful. I think her eyes were still closed, but like opening. And I remember
Hmm.
kissing her on the cheek, and I remember them taking her away right away. And I knew they prepped me. They said we're gonna probably rush her away right away to make sure she is stable, make sure the Infallicil is fine. So I think that was where you met them, right at that table in the room, or
No,
was it outside of the room?
I was right next to you when they brought Isabel over.
Oh,
In fact, the picture of that's going to be attached to this podcast as well. They brought Isabel over to her. Was able to catch a couple pictures of it. She got to see her for a real brief moment, and then we went off to the far corner of this operating room, where immediately they're clearing out her throat, everything, making sure she can breathe, bandaging up the Infallicil. Um, they did an initial wipe down of it with the ointment and some gauze. I got to cut the umbilical cord, which was um, awesome and felt weird at the same time.
it was awesome. Like I always wonder what that would be like. Like did it feel like you were cutting something really like?
It felt like cutting through like cartilage or like something like fleshy and wiry at the same time.
Wow.
It was a very interesting experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like nervous to cut it at first because I didn't know if it was gonna hurt her for me to cut it.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they took a video of it again. Like
Oh yeah, you have a video. Hmm.
you can see, I hesitated when I made the first cut, and then I had to make a couple cuts to get through
Wow.
it.
What a whirlwind. That's so crazy.
So yep, they took care of her. They cleaned her off real good. They put the little baby cap on her head. Um, my daughter takes after me, so she has a very large head, and the head
She
didn't
was a
fit.
big baby, you guys.
the,
We were shocked with how big she ended up being compared to what they guessed she was going to be.
the head didn't really fit, so she only wore it from the operating room up to her NICU room.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah,
God.
they put her in the plastic bag, and then
What's that about? Maybe you should explain it because I don't really
it's
remember what
just
that is.
like to keep for while she's being moved. It's like a sanitary bag to prevent any germs or anything to get into the exposed Infallicil.
Because they said we're going to put her in a bag, and I was like, okay, I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, it's a little plastic bag. It's like a sleeping bag type thing that comes up, and it went up to her chest. And I don't know if it. Um, they said it was like sanitary. Why? Because we had to go from this. I don't remember.
Sterile operating
Yeah, the
room,
sterile
right?
operating room up like four levels to the NICU and all the way down the hall because Jessie gave birth at Frederick Hospital,
Which
which
it
is
would probably.
attached to the Children's Hospital.
Mm,
So it was close and far at the same time. It was enough of a distance where they felt they needed to have her covered.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as soon as they get the bag on her, they have us exit the operating room, and then I felt like we were at a pit stop in a racetrack. They had me quickly take off my robe and the shoes and
You had a quick
switch
change?
mask out, take the hairnet off, and quickly change all that, take it off, throw it in the trash, and then race to the elevator. I felt like I don't know if it was just because like I felt panicked and so much anxiety, but it felt like I was like being rushed so bad. So we did that, then we got onto the elevator and we went all the way up to the NICU. and from there, that's when they did all the measuring, the poking, the prodding, the testing, everything to make sure that Isabel is being uh, or making sure Isabel is as healthy as possible, make sure the Phalocele is in great condition. Um,
Yeah.
and while they're doing all this, Jessie is heading to the recovery room after they close her up.
And this is technically Freighter, but it's closed. They're like conjoined hospitals, right? They're conjoined in a certain at
It's
one
an
level.
educational hospital, so it's all part of the same system, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I don't remember much of it. I just remember being tired, which I think is typical. I remember, I think my mom like tried to give me a heads up that when she, I don't think she had a C-section, but she said when she gave birth, she remembered feeling like chills, like really cold. So I think she was telling me to try to make sure that I asked for a blanket. So I'm sure I did, and I just remember being told that I could rest and go to sleep, and that when I woke up, I would be able to eat. But in the meantime, I could have some water, I think, or some ice chips.
Yeah.
So I definitely did that, and I remember sleeping. And I think did I maybe we text people when I woke up? I don't really remember anymore.
I did a lot of texting everybody when I was in the NICU.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to make sure Jesse saw all the pictures and stuff before I sent them, so we waited for that a little bit. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I let everybody know that mom and baby were doing fine at the time, and
Mhm. Mhm.
so when we were in the NICU, there was a whole swarm of doctors and nurses just getting Isabel prepped um, for her stay in the NICU. They did weigh her, and she came out to be way more than we thought. So
Yeah.
initially, they weighed her, and she was over 9 pounds, but that was with the bandages and stuff on. So her official weight came out to be 8 pounds and 4.7 ounces. Uh,
Yep.
we were told when in our last ultrasound she was only 6.5 pounds ish.
Mhm.
So this was a huge uh, difference than what we were expecting. And
I
then
was I was I mean I was huge. I was to the point too where I was so uncomfortable, and I remember like the last couple of days you and my mom had taken some pictures of me, and I just was just like kind of just totally trying to survive and really hope that the baby didn't come early either, because I felt like it was really getting to that point for sure.
and then not only was she much heavier than we expected, she was actually a lot longer than we expected as well. She came out at 19.25 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we I don't remember what they predicted her height was gonna be, but I'm not a tall guy, and
I'm under 5 feet.
Jesse's very short.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we were not expecting her to be as long as she is, and in fact, she's not. She hasn't been gaining a ton of weight since birth, but she's definitely getting longer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting.
It totally is interesting. The other thing that it kind of put a little bit of a fear in us, but we were really relieved when we got like the news that she was negative for the Beckwith Wiedemann. They did tell us like that a like explainably big baby might mean that they're more likely to have
Yeah.
that. So we tried to like put that in the back of our head, but that was something that we're like, oh, okay, that's a like a telltale. But then they confirmed that she didn't have it. It just took time, I think. She was ready
Mm-hmm.
home from the NICU, by the way, by the time they confirmed that. But we'll talk about that in another episode.
Yep. So, like I said, they were preparing Isabel for her stay. Um, they, like I said, they cleaned her up. They took her footprints. The nurse actually was pretty cool, and um, she tried as hard as she could. The ink didn't work well, but she had me take my shirt off and put her footprint on my chest. And unfortunately, it just didn't. It didn't work. The ink wasn't strong enough, or the pad was too weak. So I just had a little, somewhat of a dark shadow on my chest for a little bit.
I don't think I even knew about that. That's really sweet.
And so she tried to do that. She tried to put the footprint on the shirt I was wearing as well, and that didn't work either.
uh,
So, but they tried, and definitely they did such an incredible job with just keeping me in the loop with everything that they were doing. Um,
I will never forget it because during the heat, like the absolute peak of the beginning of the pandemic, I remember being very, very afraid about how it would feel to be in a hospital during that time. And I remember feeling like so much compassion for these people. And they just were at a level of professionalism and like their craft. Like, I cannot explain. Like, I want to cry over it because it was not even like there was a pandemic. They were just like so in tune and so sharp and so um, I don't know what the word is. Like, I guess compassionate, but more than that, they were just so anticipatory with what I needed, what Isabel needed, and they were so good at explaining things. It was just the best possible experience I could have hoped for when I'm someone who hasn't been, involved in a lot of medical care in my own life. So I just was kind of nervous. I should say crazy nervous, and really pleasantly surprised with how everything went. So,
Yeah, it was awesome. At that point, we were able to meet with the surgeon who came in and thoroughly inspected the umbilical, making sure there was um, that the sac was all intact, making sure there's no parts of it were compromised. They were able to get a good look at it, and they were pointing out to me some of the organs that were in there because it was definitely translucent. Is that the word? Translucent, where you can actually see through it. Which, again, that's something I don't know I was necessarily prepared for to see it. It just made the condition so much more real to me. Obviously, I saw the giant sac, but just to be able to like see it fresh out the womb and able to see through
I'm trying to think like
was
something you could compare it to. Do you know what do they call those? Not an egg roll, but the paper that they use for like spring rolls.
oh
Was it
yeah,
kind of like almost like that?
like rice paper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like not like paper
kind of.
thin, but it was like you could see like pretty easily through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then as time went on, it got thicker. But when she
Yeah.
was first born, I remember the picture we have that I don't think we'll show. It's just too like gooey. We could really see a lot of the stuff in the picture from when they kind of like were taking her out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So we met this. I met the surgeon. The at and at this point, it's the surgeon that's going to do her surgery.
Really?
Yes,
That's who
I
was in the
believe so.
room? Oh, okay.
At least for the first time.
Wow.
And yeah, so he walked through quite a bit of the stuff with me, and he did the initial wrapping of it. And at this point, they didn't have the cast made yet. So what he did is he wrapped it the first time, stuck a diaper on it, and then they used like towels or blankets and kind of propped it around it and had her on her side for the time being until they can come in. The physical therapy team who
So do the cast.
created the cast until they can come and get the cast put on there.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. The genetics team came in and they were walking me through all the testing they were doing, the all the vials of blood they were pulling out. Um,
Poor Isabel.
yeah, she
Aw.
was definitely getting poked and prodded, and she did
Like as
not
soon as
like
she
it.
came out, poor sweetie.
So after a while, Isabel's down resting, so I decided to run back to Jesse's room, in the recovery room, and check in on her. Um, she was still very much out of it. She was exhausted. She's been dealing with the doctors and stuff checking on her throughout the time that I was gone.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I was there. Did the doctors or anything say anything while I was in the NICU?
I don't think they said too much. I think they just said things seemed to be going well. I know you were coming back and forth. You did like a really good job. I don't know how you did it of being able to almost be in two places at once. you
Yeah,
know.
I definitely needed to be in two places at once.
Yeah. I don't remember feeling like where's Adam, at all. I felt like you were back right away, but then at the same time I wanted you to go over there. I didn't want you to like miss a moment of doing
Mm-hmm.
the kind of beginning things that, you wanted to do and also to report back to make sure Isabel was settled. I think my concerns were like how is she
Yeah.
breathing? How is she doing with her, stability of her imbalancil and, just what does she look like? Because I only saw her for like, it felt like a split second before they whisked her away.
Yeah, so I would run back, tell her what's going on, show her pictures that I took of her. Also trying to make sure that she's getting her food and everything and that she needs to do. Um, and then I would run back over to the NICU. I was just doing a lot of running back and forth. I was definitely getting my steps in those days.
Yeah, yeah, you were.
But yeah, I gotta say though, Jessie is incredible. She had this major surgery and then
Trying to make a muscle.
was still focused on getting her milk production going so that way Isabel can have breast milk. And eventually, same day, she got the strength to go all the way down to the
It
NICU.
was the same day.
Yeah, it was the same day.
Wow.
To see and hold her for the first
Oh,
time.
I wanted to get to her so bad. I was just like trying to figure out what it would take or how I could prove to them that I was ready to go. And I remember feeling like I got a lot of help getting out of wherever it was, the bed, into the wheelchair.
Yep.
But literally, like, I think it's so cliche, but so true that when you see the baby, when I saw Isabel, it was like none of that was in my head. I was just like, my baby! You know, I got to be by her bedside. I got to hold her for a little bit, and Adam got to hold her for a little bit, but it was really a lot more of like us kind of looking in on her while she was kind of in her cute little bed. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was definitely uh, surreal
Yeah.
once we saw her,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we saw her together.
Yeah, that was special. I was worried that we wouldn't get that opportunity either. I thought it was going to have to be one of us only at a time.
Yeah, I saw her, and if I'm being 100% honest, I wasn't big on having kids. Obviously, when Jessie got pregnant, my mindset shifted and I was ready. But when
Yeah.
I saw her first time, something in me flipped, and now she's all I think about all day. And working from home has been great because if I'm having a rough day, I go upstairs and I take a look at her, and then she smiles at me, and I'm no longer having a rough day.
Yeah, I have to like take a drink so I don't just start bawling right now. But that's really awesome to hear that.
But yeah, such a surreal moment to see Jessie holding her, and
Oh, that was the best. It was so the best. It was like we wish we could freeze it in time kind of thing. And it was definitely at the time it didn't feel bittersweet. It just felt perfect. Eventually, it was going to feel bittersweet because we were only able to be there together for 48 hours. And I actually chose to stay another night. It was up to me at the time to do it overnight and go or not. And I really felt like I needed another day to kind of be in the wound care help, because that was actually a little like scary. I was afraid to look at the incision. I was afraid to touch it, and I just felt like I would be more comfortable if I had one more day of like a little help getting that taken care of. So anyway.
so a little side note: when I first proposed to Jessie a long time
Oh
ago, we
boy.
caught a picture of me proposing, and in that picture, the ugly cry was born. And it's probably my favorite picture, and it makes me laugh every time I look at
It's
it.
your favorite picture.
And
Get out of here.
there's a picture that I attached onto the video version of this, and if she wasn't wearing the mask, you guys would all see the ugly cry in action.
I was crying in the picture.
Yeah, you're
What picture?
the one right down here in the bottom.
I was crying in that picture.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, she definitely got emotional the first time holding her.
Oh, I could get emotional right now. Seriously, it's just the best. I'm so happy to be a mommy, and especially to Isabel. So, and obviously with you as Isabel's daddy. But yes, so that was the best. That was what we had amped up for 9 months, and tried to soak in every moment too, because we knew that we would have to go home without her, which for me was hard.
Yeah.
It was very hard.
Yeah, so after a while, Jessie obviously in quite a bit of pain still, so we didn't stick around in the NICU for long. I took her back to her room, and for me, I felt like I was doing double duty. Like I said, I needed to be down in the NICU. I also needed to take care of Jessie, so I took it upon myself to do everything I could possibly do to keep her going and comfortable and just so she would have no as little stress as possible because I can't take away all of her stress. She's recovering. So I made sure that everything she needed for her pumping was there. I would wash it, replace all the parts as needed, making sure she got her food in. I know a few times she just didn't want to eat.
Yeah, that's true. I can say very comfortably that I don't think I would have been able to be successful with pumping exclusively if you didn't help me get started. And I know there was lactation consultants, there was nurses there to help me, but you helped me like from a time perspective too, to
Mm.
have like that discipline, like okay, now is the time, to try to get started. And you were like really patient with me too, and like trying to figure stuff out, and you were paying attention to what the nurse was saying to me. So I think, yeah, I remember you saying, I think in a previous episode, that you didn't need to be there for the lactation consultation, but maybe it's good that you did, because I mean, I'm not trying to brag because everyone has their own journey, but I made it to 9 months exclusively pumping for Isabel, and I wanted to make it to at least a year. But I feel that that's largely in part of your help, which is really interesting, right?
I had that down. I put in like I forget how often she had to pump. It was like every hour or two.
Every 2 hours, I think.
And I had it scheduled in my phone, so I would get a little alarm and I quick bolt back over to get her going, and so she can get pumping. And
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah,
it was definitely
it
uh,
was the best.
interesting, and it was definitely an interesting experience for me. Feeling like I was going back and forth. One thing while we were there, because Jesse couldn't get up and down.
No, not for a
Um,
while. I think the next day I was able to, not even by myself, I needed help.
yeah, you definitely needed help getting in and out of the bed. You couldn't walk very far.
Mm-hmm.
So, for a lot of it, I was just going down there by myself, down to the NICU.
Mm-hmm. Did
And,
you video chat me from there?
yep,
Yeah.
yep. So, uh, Zoom, Facebook video
Google
calls,
Duo.
Google Duo.
That's my favorite.
The, we definitely had a crash course in these different softwares for video calling people.
Mm-hmm.
So I would video call Jessie while she was in the room. We did a couple with friends and family, and
And think of doing it all with a face mask on too, because COVID.
yeah, we had to keep a mask on in the room. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild.
yeah, while she was in the NICU and Jessie was in her room, I did like a video call with friends and family. So Jessie was still able to talk to us, and then I'm just standing there holding the camera over the baby.
Yeah, you
And the
did.
nurses were teasing me, saying that Isabel's developing a fan club already, and this and that. And
She totally was. Oh, one thing I'll say that might be helpful for parents who are expecting babies. We were given a heads up by a friend of ours who has a son who has an imphallus, that it was a good idea to look for clothes that had snappies in the front. So I
yeah,
did some thorough research because I was really into styling Isabel, because I wanted to pick specific patterns and like cute stuff and comfortable stuff for her. So I had a website that I really liked. If you want to email the Oh Baby email, I'm happy to share that with you. I won't share, openly right now, but I'm happy to recommend things. But just whatever research you want to do to find snappies, I felt like it was so much easier to have the nurses be able to
mm-hmm.
put them on for her, and then for her to feel comfy in them. And then also they kind of like bended and stretched as needed. And then when we
Yep.
brought her home, it made it so much easier to get to her dressing if we had to. But we could also like close the snappies around her dressing too if we needed to.
And if you got them large enough, you can actually close it over
Mm-hmm.
the imphallus as well.
Yeah. I'm so
But
glad we did that. It was
that's
so much
very
easier than any like shirt thing, any other type of thing that we could have possibly done.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. Oh, and then there were times when she would like not keep her food down early on, and they had to change her, and every time they changed her they would put snappies on her too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just a standard thing they do for old babies to make it easier.
Yeah. So overnight, even though I really wanted to stay in the room with them, with Isabel, and it was definitely an option we could have, but I just thought it'd be better if I stayed with Jessie in her room.
Yeah.
Just because there definitely wouldn't have been any sleeping in the NICU. There's beeping and alarms and stuff going on.
I don't think I could have did the pumping without you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Jessie
I would have
definitely needed
slept
me.
through, and I think I would have not been successful.
So unfortunately, I would go back instead of spending the night with Isabel. I would go back to the recovery room with Jessie, and then we got a few calls throughout the night.
Oh yeah.
The first one was um, Isabel was having issues with her breathing, and when they called, they were saying how as of at that time they weren't putting the mask on her unless her oxygen levels dropped to a specific number, and then we said okay, do what you have to do. Um, and then we checked in on the Angel Eye camera that Children's Hospital has, where it's a 24/7 live view of your baby. And we looked in, and then sure enough, she was wearing the mask. So that was concerning to us because everything felt like it was going smoothly, and then all of a sudden, um,
I
she
basically
needed
forgot
a
that.
mask.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Oh yeah.
throughout the same night, or it was either the same night or early the next morning, we got another call where they were concerned that she was starting to look yellow and jaundice.
That's right.
Um, so then they decided to do a test on her for her thyroid.
Oh.
So they ended up putting her on a thyroid medication because the bandages that we put on the betadine can cause thyroid issues. So we had to think about that now for quite a while until she no longer needed that betadine solution.
Right.
So
yeah, that was kind of hard. I remember they called you a lot at first. I think once I was discharged, then they kind of went between the two of us. Because then I remember you went back to work right away, and then I was on leave, and I remember being at home recovering and getting a few calls from them. Nice thing was you had been at home, right?
Yeah, I was working from home
So
except for one day of the week.
I could kind of grab you and like bring you into the room or come down. No, I didn't come down because I was still recovering. No. I think that I either called you up or I came and talked to you. I didn't come and talk to you. Because that's our life now. It's so easy for me to come and talk to you, but when we're working in different rooms. But no, there was definitely none of that. Yeah. And in fact, our dogs had to be blocked off into another room because we didn't want them to jump on me by mistake or anything.
Yeah, we purposely got some Amazon devices, and more specifically like the Echo Shows with the screen, so that way if she needed something, she can just drop in and we can video chat from different rooms. That way she wouldn't have to worry about getting up or down or anything, or getting injured that way.
Yep.
So we were allowed to be together for the first 48 hours in the NICU, which was awesome because I was able to be there for Jessie, wheel her down there, making sure she had everything she needed to spend time with Isabel, because I did not want to get in the way of that. I wanted her to spend as much time as she could with her. So it was awesome to just be able to be there and just watch those two interact. I know there was a couple times where she got teased by the doctors because she was singing Backstreet Boys to her.
Okay, so that's kind of embarrassing, but that's just the way I roll. From literally even before she was born, the night before she was born, well before that too, but specifically the night before she was born, I was definitely pumping a lot of Backstreet Boys into her ears. So that became a theme throughout, and I still do it.
Yeah, and within those first 48 hours, they made us watch all these training videos, which is fine.
Actually, I think that was a you thing. I don't think they made me watch it until a little bit later, if I remember correctly.
They wanted us to watch it before she was discharged.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was like CPR training and
what's it called?
Co-sleeping.
Blue baby or purple baby? Purple crying. Like something about babies crying and how it's like a thing where it can be really stressful when babies cry and you don't know what they want. So it's kind of like an awareness thing about how to try to de-escalate yourself if you're feeling really stressed out by a baby crying so that you don't accidentally hurt the baby. It was hard to watch, but it was, I think, good. I understand why they make everybody watch those.
And there was a safe sleep video, meaning babies, they typically want you to have them sleeping on their back. In Isabel's case, she couldn't. Right. The weight of the Infalicil was too much, so we had to put her on her side and put a blanket and stuff underneath her. So because of that, they had her on this little monitor to track her heart rate and everything like that. I hated that machine.
So we will do a whole another episode about the NICU stay. The NICU is incredible. These particular things like would slip off of her and would like send your heart into like a tailspin every
Yeah,
time
it
because it
would
would beep really
definitely.
loud.
That's gonna be a what grinds my gears moment in the next episode is talking about that stupid machine. I
Oh
hate
my
it.
gosh, you guys, we have so much to tell you in the next episode about our NICU stuff. Good stuff, mostly good stuff. Also crazy stuff, just things that we experienced that you would not even know to ever think about. So, yeah. Anyway, it felt like that went very fast. All of a sudden, I was getting discharged. I was getting sent home. I was told I could continue the meds if I wanted to. I said I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to. I wanted to try to get off of the strong meds as quickly as I could. So I ended up taking, I think it was like 2 ibuprofen and 3 extra strength Tylenol every, I think,
Something like that.
few hours. And I think that was it, other than resting and trying to drink water and trying to eat stuff with fiber because,
Yep, you
those
needed lots of
drugs going
fiber.
through your system, oh my gosh, is terrible. We could also talk about that at length too. If any moms want to email me to the O Baby email address, I have so much to say about what you can do to try to help your gut get back in control because I suffered immensely trying to figure that out. And I had a little bit of help, but it took me like being in the NICU, like almost like crying to one of the NICU nurses, and for her to be like, "Oh, you know what I did to survive it? Is I ended up taking, I think it was like Miralax and
Yeah,
I Metamucil, and that like really helped her." And I was like,
yeah.
"Really? I've been taking
You were taking Miralax.
no, before that I was taking something else that was not doing it for me."
Oh.
Anyway, I could go on and on. So that changed everything, but it was so hard for a long time. It was very uncomfortable for me to just like digest because I think, I don't know, after C-sections, after having a baby, your like tummy is just trying to figure out like how to recalibrate, I think. So, yep, then I was out of there. I was getting wheeled away. You drove me home, right? We
Yep.
came home together.
So we definitely they only allowed us for the first 48 hours. And in those first 48 hours, I mentioned they gave us a bunch of calls throughout the night to discuss the CPAP machine and the jaundice, the yellowing of her skin. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the she did really well with the oxygen. That later that same day, they ended up taking her off the CPAP machine, which was great, which was a huge stress relief
Oh,
for
that was a
us.
victory for us.
They the physical therapy team came in and they put the cast on. And the coolest thing about that, so they put the cast on the first day, and the second day I went down there early in the morning, and the nurse told me that they had to take the cast back and recut it because the umbilical had already shrunk enough
Oh,
where it
that was
was
so
too
cool.
big.
That was so cool to hear. Yeah.
So we were just amazed by that. Like, is the most. She's so tiny, but she's so strong, so resilient, and
She's just
she
like,
such an inspiration,
yeah.
not only to us as her parents, but Jesse's mom, for example, had some medical stuff she needed to have done, and
Yeah.
she told us, she said, "Well, if Isabel can go through what she's going through, this is gonna be no problem for me."
Right.
And it's just amazing how this little baby can read her her condition can be could be a positive influence for others as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's why I really like that we're doing this podcast because I want to share that with everyone. It's a feeling that I feel everyone should feel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely just her story. It's still obviously unfolding, but up until that point, like her being born and like, getting stable in the NICU, it just like blew us away completely, like um how strong she was just on her own, cuz you want to as a parent do everything to make it so they don't feel pain so that they're fine, and then you just can't. You just feel helpless, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
obviously had the best possible care, but she just was such a fighter. It was so impressive. and just like heartwarming too. We were just so thankful for every every positive thing we could possibly hear,
Mm-hmm.
from the doctors. We just were taking it as a sign to continue to pray and continue to, send her good vibes and all of that, because we just felt like so many people rallied around her too. So
Mm-hmm.
to then see her succeed through a lot of challenges was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jessie was discharged after 2 days. Kind of felt like they wanted her out in one day, but we definitely took advantage of the 2 days.
Yeah.
But being discharged after 2 days, it just brought on a whole new set of challenges. COVID did not make this easy for us. Now we have to figure out how to tag in and out of the NICU so we can both spend time with Isabel.
And I can't walk, by the way. I'm not by
Jessie,
myself.
Jessie still couldn't walk, so she had to be wheeled in, wheeled up to the room, and then
Yeah.
picked up. Same thing, wheeled out, and then helped into the car. We had to figure out what we were going to do with our dogs to
Mm.
make sure that they didn't try to jump up on Jessie
Mhm.
while she was recovering, because they're dogs. They get excited, especially if you've been
Well, they
gone for
hadn't
a
seen
couple of
us in a
days.
couple days. Mhm.
So we had to gate them off into the other room and then slowly introduce them back to her so that way they wouldn't get too excited.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I was wondering too, this is just something that you just wonder. It's not even a big deal. But I had a thought in my head, like, I wonder what the neighbors think, because we didn't really have a chance to talk to any of our neighbors, like, after COVID hit, right? So I
yeah,
knew that our neighbors saw me with a big pregnant belly, and then they saw us come home without her. So I was
yeah,
like, I hope that they don't, like, jump to any conclusions. We don't have the ability to explain that she's okay,
yeah,
So we were just like, nobody, was able to even come to our door. Either our family knew what was going on, and our friends
yeah.
and my coworkers and his knew what was going on, but we were like, I wonder what the neighbors think. And Isabel's
Well,
fighting it out in the NICU, doing
we don't
amazing.
talk to a lot of our neighbors. There's a couple that I've personally had conversations with.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if Jesse's ever had a
not
conversation with one of
much.
our
Not
neighbors, but
much. They're nicer than I am. I'm not unfriendly, but I'm just not as usually someone to go and approach somebody. So I'm a little shy sometimes. So anyway.
so we're at home at this point, and like I said, it's a whole new set of challenges. But we'll have to get into that more into detail in our next episode. But so make sure you tune back in to the next episode. There's gonna be a lot of more information and the NICU stay.
Mhm.
Jesse can probably give you some insight into her recovering from home. She
Mhm.
already mentioned some of the digestive issues she went through.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
we'll be talking more about getting back and forth, tagging in and out, and some of the awesome things these nurses did for us while we were there. I
Yeah.
can't.
Oh, you
I'm
guys, we have so
excited.
much good stuff to share with you. So we'll definitely try to draft out a good script for this next time around, so we include all the really cool things. The other things that I want to share too, even if it's like a spin-off episode or something, I would love to share, kind of how I spent my maternity leave, and I feel like some things I did were really valuable. I want to also like caution and remind every single mom to, and every mom to be so patient with yourself, because I will talk at length too about how hard I was on myself with the mom exhaustion that I didn't predict, and trying to force myself through it when it was just like a natural thing my body was doing. So much to tell you. So we are excited to share, and thank you for listening this time around, because this was one of the episodes we really looked forward to sharing too about Isabel's entrance into the world. So
Yeah, so that's all the time we have for this episode. As always, if you're enjoying this podcast, make sure you hit the like button. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so you get alerted when we upload new videos. We would love to hear from you as well. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, concerns. We want to hear it all.
ideas,
So,
or if you want to be a guest on the show, please reach out to us. We're definitely heading there. We're just trying to appropriately plan and roll out our stories, so we want to at least start there. That we're so excited to bring guests on too.
if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, for sure, email us. We would love to have you on at some point in the future. The email address is going to be obabypodcast@gmail.com. It'll also be listed in the description below. Also, at this point, I wanted to first apologize. It's been a few weeks since our last podcast. Um, Life got a little hectic for us with work and Isabel taking care of her. So we took a little bit of time off. We also celebrated Jesse's birthday.
Yay! Don't
So
say how old I am.
so it's been a little bit between episodes, so we apologize for that. And I know initially when we started the podcast, we were going to do every other week. I think for now, we are going to do monthly episodes. Um, we want to make sure we provide you with the best information and content possible. And
With
if
some fresh energy too, because I'll admit
exactly,
I've been very tired, and so have you, from working so hard and trying to be there for Isabel too. She is currently teething and doing amazing, but definitely we feel like we've lost a lot of sleep lately too.
yeah.
So
So we don't want the content to suffer, and you don't want the content to suffer. So we're gonna switch to monthly episodes. Um, please bear with us as we upload these. We're gonna try to definitely stay consistent and give you the best possible show we can give you. So again, thank you for watching, um, and we'll see you next time.
see you next time.